Talked to Dean Blandino, the head of officials in the NFL. He talked about the Dez Bryant catch, no catch, and why he thought it was the right call. Mike Pereira used to hold that job. Now he works for Fox Sports as their NFL rules analyst, and Mike joins us now. What's the biggest problem with the call, in your opinion?
Well, I think the biggest problem is not knowing how to fix it. I mean, you got to go back to Calvin Johnson in 2010, and obviously they sat down at the competition committee and looked at a multitude of plays and say, how can we take a play that feels like a catch, that smells like a catch, how can we turn it into a catch? And, you know, they seem to go back to 1999 to the catch-22 they put themselves in the Burt Emanuel play where, you know, you went from a ball touching the ground to be incomplete to saying that if you maintain control after it touched the ground, then it would be a catch. And really since that, it's thrown this, you know, level of gray that has made it so difficult to either understand or really officiate. And I would throw instant replay in that too, because instant replay became involved after that. And so it's you know, it's difficult. And I think the committee didn't find a common ground somewhere in between that could turn that into a catch. Do you want it to be that particular play to be a catch and a fumble if he wasn't touched, and then it becomes basically a cheap fumble if it's in the field of play, as the competition committee would likely call it? I think we headed down that road in 1999 when we made the original change.
Did they make the right call yesterday?
Yeah, they did. By rule, they clearly made the right call. I mean, it's
but
one
is
of the
the rule
rarities
wrong?
that even Mike Carey and I even agreed on that it was the right call.
My problem is, though, I think we're punishing Dez Bryant for being athletic, that he caught it, and he took 3 steps. Now, if you want to say, okay, only 2 steps, and then he switched hands. He tried to score. So he made an athletic move, in my opinion, and he got penalized for it, punished by it.
Yeah, he made an athletic move, and I agree. It was a really a great attempt at a catch. The problem is that, you know, the rule again gets to this vagueness of what is an athletic move, because at least after the Calvin Johnson play, the one thing that they arrived at, they said that if you maintain control right when the ball hit the ground and then lost it as you rolled over, then it would be considered a catch, that the process would have an ending point. But, you know, the process's ending point was not when the ball first touched the ground. If the ball comes out as soon as it touches the ground, then it becomes, you know, incomplete. And I know people say to me, and of course I get beat up all the time on Twitter, but people say, well, this doesn't make sense because the ground can't cause a fumble, which we know is true if you're touched before you go to the ground. But you're dealing with the runner. You're not dealing with the receiver who has control of a loose ball trying to become a runner.
Is this rule? Would you change this rule?
Yes, I would, but I don't know how. I mean, it's like a bit like the old tuck rule. I mean, you know, that was nonsensical to anybody, yet it was kind of a clear and defined rule that made it relatively easy in replay to look at, but it didn't make sense to anybody. And I used we always did, quite frankly, 50 guys in a bar, 50 drunk guys in a bar. If you look at a play and you think it's a catch, then the rules ought to be somewhat aligned like that. And I think this is the same type of, you know, uproar that we got in 2010 with the Calvin Johnson play. It feels like a catch. Now, you know, I think the committee will once again look at it, you know, because it's such a huge play, and maybe even because Stephen Jones is on the competition committee. I think they'll look at it and see if they can come to some type of resolution to turn it into a catch. But quite frankly, at the end of the day, I don't think they will.
He's Mike Pereira, NFL and Fox referee critiquer. I don't know. What's your official title there, Mike?
I think they call me a rules analyst.
Will we have replay on pass interference next year?
Well, listen, I think it depends more on whether or not you're going to have replay for hits on defenseless players, because there's more of a tendency, at least I feel, within the league to make those reviewable, because everybody is so emotional about those, and everybody says it's such a critical penalty. And you know, my response to that is, I agree it's a critical penalty, and I agree it's emotional. But, hey, pass interference is more critical than that, because you're talking about, you know, you could be talking about a 50-yard play. So, to me, if you head down that slope where you're going to look at hits on defenseless receivers, where you're going to talk about judgment, then I don't know how you can't include pass interference. And, you know, I think you just have to get in your mind that if you're willing to have games that run longer, and if you're willing to have more stops during the game, then go ahead and open up more things to review. If that's okay with you, then I think they may do it. If it's not, if they want to keep that window at 3 hours and 5 minutes, and they want to you know, to have a little better flow of the game, then they won't do it. But I think there's more sentiment than ever to expand it, at least somewhat.
Why are the officials, or at least we're getting the appearance that they're letting the teams play, letting defenses play? Why are we doing that now as opposed to the regular season?
Well, I think that's a perception. I mean, if you look at the penalty totals, that doesn't. I mean, that doesn't hold true. The number of penalties have been just about the same, fractionally lower in the playoffs, but certainly not much. I mean, if you look at the first round of the playoffs in the wild card, in 4 games they called 8 defensive holding penalties, which was above the average of the regular season. So I think it's just perception, because you see some, you know, you missed holds and you know, and that stuff. But you know what? Let's go back in the regular season. You'd see that a lot too. So I don't buy into it, because I don't think that statistically that reveals itself to be true.
Well, why the transparency here with now telling me that you missed 7 calls in the Dallas-Detroit game? Or how does
I didn't tell you that.
No, but they did. The league did.
Yeah, and I don't think the league was very happy about that, you know, because
it doesn't make anything better. You give the appearance you're being transparent, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but who's being transparent?
The NFL.
The Cowboys are being transparent.
They're the ones that they leak this?
Sure they did. The league didn't leak that. That came from the Cowboys, or some source within the Cowboys. Look, at the process is, and it happens with just about every team, not all, because some don't buy into the theory of sending plays into the league to review, because what good does it do? But Cowboys sending questions, and the one thing that we said early is that we said, when in my time, we're going to be perfectly honest on the plays, and even if maybe it's a ticky-tack foul, and you go, yeah, they said it should have been holding. Yeah, it is, but it is holding. But boy, it would be so ticky-tack to call it. But you made honest assessments, and you
but this hurt the Lions, Mike. It was Ndamukong Suh was held on the play. Why would the Cowboys release that?
Well, I mean, why would they? Because maybe they were getting so much heat because of the picked up pass interference call to make it look so much like.
No, there was another. That was another piece of evidence that the Lions got hosed there. I think that. So it sounds like.
Well, I understand that they're saying the Lions got hosed, so now they're trying to say that we got hosed. But then in the end, not the first. I remember, hey Dan, I remember when Mike Holmgren, when he leaked, or the Seahawks leaked my answers to him about missing, 7 plays in a game or 8 plays. Anyways, he somehow got it released to the press, and he was suspended for the right to talk to me for a 4-game period. He couldn't talk to me, and he couldn't send me any plays. And I remember him calling me after he got that suspension letter, and he said, "Wait a minute, I can't talk to you for 4 weeks? Is this punishment?" And I remember laughing with him, and I said, "Yep, this is punishment." He goes, "I love this league. Love this league."
These officials, they get threats. Is that ever made public after something like this?
Well, yeah. If you go back, I can't quote the year, Dan, but if you go back to the playoff game between the Colts and the Steelers, when they ruled a Pittsburgh interception on the field.
Polamalu?
And again, Polamalu, and it was this whole process thing. It was a process thing, and They reviewed it and reversed it, and they shouldn't have because the ball came out after he rolled over. Well, they made that decision, reversed it to an incomplete pass, went against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won, but the referee, who lives in Stockton, California, that next night had a brick thrown through his plate glass window and had a cherry bomb blown up underneath his car in the driveway.
Oh, boy.
It's so public right now, and the internet, you can pick up just about anything you want as to where people live. So you do get threats, and that's why security works closely with the league, with the officials, and you would like to think it doesn't get to that level, but there are certain isolated instances like that where it does.
Good to visit with you, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
You got it, Dan. Take care.
Thank you, buddy. Mike Pereira, NFL rules analyst, former NFL vice president of officials.